Welcome back to the Home Tour Podcast. It's me, Hunter Mitchell, joined here by my co-host, Cade Harris.
How we doing? How we doing? We're back.
Yeah, back after a little bit of some technical issues last week. Couldn't get our two football podcasts, which kind of sucks. Had a pretty good power rankings, I think, especially how the week ended up actually shaping out. Same thing with football for A&M football as well. But we are now back. It's going to be a weird skip of a week, but now we're back for our what's this now week?
Week 6 power
Yeah,
rankings.
technically, yeah, because
Yeah.
we missed week 5, but
Well, I mean, I'm saying
yeah, but
this.
this
I
is-
guess technically this is our fifth. I guess our 6th week if you count the week before, but it is week 6 of college football, so
Yeah.
I just call it the week 6 power rankings.
Yeah. Um,
I wish we could have released that football episode because it kind of aged well.
it aged splendidly.
We had a couple of things said in there that
but
kind of turned down to the game, but it's okay.
You just had to take our word for it. Trust me.
Yeah.
We're always correct. And we always make perfect predictions.
Come on now.
As seen in our power rankings, which we'll kick it off in the East. It's Vanderbilt.
Yep.
I mean, Brady Cook and Luther Burden played, so it signed their death wish. They put up a little bit of a fight in their construction zone, but
Did you see that they were doing construction during the game?
mid-game. Oh man, yeah.
There needs to be construction of that football team during the game, I think.
Ooh, yeah, Vanderbilt, stick with baseball. You found you found your niche. Just roll with it.
Yeah.
So then, who's in your sixth spot?
Man, I had to drop Florida. They got ran through by Kentucky. I've had ever since that Tennessee win, I've had them, higher than Tennessee in every power rankings, higher than, a decent amount of teams, but it's starting to appear that game Tennessee played really bad. Florida played probably the best that they, will this year. It was in front of a lot of fans in the swamp, hostile territory. Just felt like kind of like a perfect storm for that game for the Gators, but ever since then, not much. They haven't done much to, I guess, convince me that they're better than most of these teams here in the East.
Yeah, I actually have South Carolina here.
Okay.
I think that especially like when we compare like the Florida Tennessee, then you look at what Tennessee did to South Carolina.
True.
That was a right thrashing, and I will say in those beautiful black uniforms, man, those are so clean. That orange and black.
I do love that little combo they have there.
That is clean and cleaned house is what they did against South Carolina. Spencer Rattler joked that was their Super Bowl. I feel like any victory now for the Gamecocks going forward will also be their own Super Bowl. They're trying to make a regular bowl now.
Wait, are you saying Rattler claimed that was South Carolina Super Bowl?
He claimed that it was Tennessee's Super Bowl.
Please.
Yeah, it was real.
I'm sorry, but there's no way he actually believes that.
No, I mean he was a little butthurt, you could tell. And again, now South Carolina's not even playing for it. They're playing for a Gasparilla Bowl right now. They're playing for a
Armed Forces Bowl. See if they can play in Shreveport.
So South Carolina, I just think again Spencer Rattler is a one-man show on offense. Their defense has looked super questionable. I think Tennessee really exploited them, and again, I think that teams are allowed maybe one bad game. I mean, you look like A&M, Miami. We'll talk about A&M later, and A&M looks like they've really rebounded from that. I kind of feel the same way about Tennessee after that Florida game. So, but South Carolina just hasn't. I mean, they just haven't impressed me at all. I mean, the only maybe impressive thing they did was holding up against Georgia a little bit, but even then, Georgia is looking kind of now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think South Carolina my 6. Is that you have in your 5th?
Yeah, I've got South Carolina there.
Okay. I have Florida in my.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like those two are very interchangeable. I would kind of say similar seasons so far. They both lost week 1 to an out of conference school. Picked up a decent SEC win. I'd say Florida's SEC win is a little bit better than South Carolina beating Mississippi State. But either way, both of them are just they're not looking like they can be at the top of the pack in the in the East.
They're not going to be. I mean, Now Florida got absolutely thrashed by Kentucky, and that was the game we were talking about. Oh, man, I wish we had that power rankings out. We were talking about we wanted to see Kentucky have a game where they go out and really, really dominate. Again, like you said, they're kind of 6A and 6B. They're both bad.
Yeah,
Like they're both not good. So then your four spot.
Tennessee. I think just because of that loss, they still are kind of hanging around the middle of the pack,
Mm.
not jumping up to the top of the East yet for me. Um, yeah, they did look good against South Carolina, and um, I'm interested to see how they can start looking towards the end of the season. Uh, it's especially going to be interesting here in a couple weeks when they
Mm.
face A&M.
I
They're
mean, they got a bye week this
they're
week,
on
so
a
they got
bye.
they got a
Yeah,
week to prepare for A&M coming home
that
prime time on CBS.
that game's gonna
Tell a lot.
tell a lot for both sides.
Hmm.
No matter what happens this weekend with A&M Bama, and if Tennessee wants to move up, I think a win against A&M would help solidify that for me. But just for now, and their body of work currently, they're in the four slot for me.
Yeah, I have Tennessee there as well. It's kind of the same, like almost the exact same reasons. You're waiting for them to really break out again. That blew out South Carolina. That's really it's a good step, but that's kind of what you're supposed to do.
Hmm.
That's what you're expected to do, especially against South Carolina team that has been one of the most underperforming teams in the entire
And
country.
you were playing at Neyland,
Yeah,
so
at night. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's it's not a good
you're
place to
yeah
be
yeah
Neyland at night.
you're expected to do that. So yeah, until they again like you mentioned A&M will prove a lot. Until then, keeping them at that fourth spot.
Hmm.
So then I assume our three spot is
Missouri,
Missouri. Yeah.
yeah,
Kind of a weird team.
very weird. I
Kind of
mean,
like you're waiting for them to keep slipping up, and like you feel like they're going to, but they just haven't.
yeah, I still feel like in the East they're the team that has the most, I guess, say from outsiders' perspective, confusion about. Um,
Yeah,
they have a good win against Kansas State, and they haven't dropped a game yet.
but you keep
But these
feeling like they're
games,
going to.
exactly. These games aren't like blowouts. I
Yeah,
mean,
every
they
game. I mean, they
barely beat Middle Tennessee,
by 4,
and then
3 points victory. Last second field goal against Kansas State,
mhm,
a touchdown victory against Memphis. Only 17 points to Vanderbilt, which yes, that's 3 scores, but to a bad Vanderbilt school who lost
mhm,
to UNLV, you're kind of expecting that like get to just be an absolute over by the second quarter kind of
yeah,
game. So for Missouri, we say it a lot with the SEC. This weekend will be huge for them.
mhm.
LSU, that will be. I mean, LSU has underperformed as well.
I'm
I'd
not
say.
I'm not saying Missouri's gonna win. I would, if you ask me now, I'd still pick LSU.
Yeah.
But do not be surprised if they were to knock down the Tigers.
Mm,
Especially after what happened to LSU last weekend.
yeah.
I think this game is a little bit sneaky for them
I mean,
on the
I'll
road.
go out and say it. I think the Tigers win.
That's a bold prediction,
I
sir.
know. That's what I'm here for the hot takes.
Yes, I'm gonna agree with that. 100% the Tigers win that week
In a close one.
in a close one, closer than the experts think.
And then so our number 2.
Yeah, I'm still leaving Kentucky there. Impressive win this weekend, I will say that. Just absolutely dominating Florida from the get go. Uh, but still, just not enough to have them at my one. I think they've kind of solidified themselves as that number two here in the SEC so far, or the East. I mean, so far. And yeah, that'll be interesting when they get their shot at Georgia. But for now, I'm keeping them at that two spot.
Mm, not so fast, my friend.
I figured you were gonna do this
I just think that Georgia has been extremely underwhelming so far this season.
for sure.
I think that like now again, this could also be a little bit of a cop out on my end. I think this is a 1A 1B too, because I mean Kentucky their first real game was against Florida, and then they took care of business, but they haven't played anybody really. But then again, look comparatively, I don't think Georgia's played anybody really either. I mean, we
No.
talked about it in our week 0. Georgia has probably one of the worst schedules.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, UT Martin, Ball State, they won by 10 points against South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
They gave up 21 to UAB. They barely beat Auburn, who is
It's a
bad.
bad Auburn team,
I
and I
know,
really was expecting that to be a
and I
blowout.
know they were in Jordan Hare, which not an easy place to play by any stretch of the imagination, but like you're the Georgia Bulldogs, you're the number one team in the country. That should be one you absolutely dominate. Now, looking ahead, Kentucky plays at Georgia, so we have a perfect decider for our 1 and 2 this week.
Definitely.
Um, Kentucky at Georgia, that's tough. A 6 p.m. game, that's even tougher. I think that this would probably be one that would shift my Georgia Kentucky next week.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's a really hard ask for a team to go into Sanford Stadium and come out with a victory in a night game. But I think that I've liked how Kentucky has looked a little bit more. I think their running game, Ray Davis is crazy good. Um, I just feel like it's just more about how Georgia has underwhelmed me than about Kentucky overwhelming me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think this is my challenge to Georgia to really light the fire under them. I know Kirby Smart's definitely listening to this, and he will play this clip for his team. But I wanted to see Georgia really, really thrash someone in the SEC to show that they are still the Georgia Bulldogs that we expect. Um, they look a little soft, like looks like there's a little bit of weakness there, and I want to see them come out and if they want to be number one in the East, I think they really need to take care of business against Kentucky and really show that they are the best team. Or else I think Kentucky could sneak up on them a little bit with that run game. It's good. It's really good. And then you have a really experienced quarterback with Devin Leary. So we'll see. I still think Georgia probably wins that game, but I think Kentucky have ahead in my power rankings for the East.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. I guess the main reason I'm just leaving Georgia there is just they haven't. I guess they haven't lost. They
Yeah,
haven't
no, and I
proved
get
that.
it.
They haven't proved that. They are. I guess prone to a loss yet.
Yeah,
I mean they haven't. They've lost
lost.
what like in the last 3 years has it been like two losses or something?
I
Like
can count on one hand. Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
dominant, and
and
so
I can get behind that. Like I can see like I'm not like Kentucky isn't my like write it in stone number one for
yeah,
this week.
no, yeah, but I'm excited for this game.
Yeah, no, that's a huge one in the
Just a
in the
really
East.
really big week in the SEC in general for
Oh yeah.
the top teams in the divisions.
Oh, foreshadowing.
Maybe.
Okay, so then now we hop over to our West. This is pretty easy, like Vandy. I think so, right? Mississippi State. In your 7?
Nah, man.
No.
Yeah, they played good against Georgia, but that Auburn team's pitiful, man. They're pitiful. I'm sorry, but they came into Kyle Field,
This
and
may
I
be-
can't get over that performance. It was pitiful.
This may be our most absolutely stirred up SEC West.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, we're usually
Pretty aligned in terms of the West.
very aligned when it comes to the West, but yeah, I just man, I don't really truly think that Auburn was part of the reason for the success this weekend. I think Georgia made a lot of mistakes,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of why I feel like they hung in there, and so that's just part of the reason why I'm leaving them there in my 7th spot.
Yeah, I mean Mississippi State has just been bad.
They have been.
I mean, thrashed by LSU, lost to a bad South Carolina team, thrashed by Alabama. Now, mind you, they played 2 of the top teams in the West, but you're in the SEC West, so you're gonna be playing those teams no matter what. So I can't give you brownie points for having the tough teams early. Yeah, they've just been stinking. I just don't see a better team in the West or a worse team in the West than Mississippi State. I don't think
Yeah,
they don't make a bowl game.
I mean, no, definitely not.
They do not make a bowl game.
And it's just for me, the 6 and that 7 here in the West is so much lower than the 1 through 5.
Oh, there's some real cream and there's some real crop in this.
Yeah.
There is some there is really a huge divide. And I think it's a 4-team race to the top, and I think the other three have absolutely zero shot at all.
Hmm.
Um, so that okay, now I'm interested who your six is. Is your
Oh,
six?
Mississippi State. Mes- Most definitely. I mean, they're very interchangeable, Auburn and Mississippi State for me. But I just think from watching, it just feels like I don't. It feels like Mississippi State. If I were to put Mississippi State and Auburn neutral site right now, I think Mississippi State wins by 10. I just
Ooh.
think that Auburn offense is so bad
Yeah,
with
it's not good.
whoever they stick out there at quarterback,
Yeah.
and so they're not going to be scoring too many offensive points, against anybody in the conference. I don't think they're going to make a bowl either, and so, I mean, yeah, very interchangeable, but that's just I feel like Mississippi State's been better because I don't see Auburn going into South Carolina and sticking with South Carolina like Mississippi State did.
Mm. That
That's just that game for me gave me a little bit more confidence in Mississippi State in general.
hmm
And heck, I mean, Bama thrashed them, but they were early on. They looked like they could hang, and I don't know. I just
spoiler alert, they didn't.
they did not they did not hang. But yeah, I mean that's just how I feel on that.
and my six, I have the Arkansas Razorbacks. I think, man, that offensive performance was pitiful. I know it's Raheem Sanders' first game back since injury, but he is, I mean, preseason All American, like first team All SEC running back, and like it just felt like, man, they had like one big play, well, two. That was in garbage time though. The
Hmm.
real one big play, the big screen play. After
Hmm.
that, A&M's defensive line just obliterated them.
Hmm.
Like every other play, KJ Jefferson sitting on the ground, and I don't know, just doesn't look like the quarterback that I remember from years prior. He doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. I mean, obviously that has something to do with the poor offensive line play. He just, he just kind of looks like a dud, and offensive line looks like a dud. Doesn't have any real stud wide receivers. The only thing that's their saving grace is their defense, and their defense is slightly above average, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, dude, I don't see a lot of pros with with Arkansas. Whereas in my fifth spot, Auburn, they at least hung 20 on Georgia and were probably coulda, shoulda, woulda, ifs and buts, candies and nuts, would have could have won that game. Um, Arkansas fell out of it. They kind of got back in with the pick six to start the second half, but Arkansas never really fell in that game at all. And I just can't see very many positive things to take away from it, as opposed to Auburn, who, held their own against the number one team in the country. And yes, I agree. Auburn's offense looks absolutely
Mm.
stinking. But I think they've got a pretty strong, solid defense. Um, and it reminds me a lot of like A&M last year, where like the defense is going to keep them in games, but what happened to A&M last year is the offense couldn't step up. So we'll need to see, will Auburn have someone step up to lead that offense to pull them out of the cellar dwellers? Um, but who knows?
Yeah.
So I assume then your five spot is our leftover from the
Yeah,
three.
Arkansas
Yeah.
for
Okay.
sure. I guess for me, why they're you know above those other two teams we've talked about is just what they did before A&M. I know it hasn't been crazy impressive. A loss to BYU, but played close to LSU. And then I think mentioning that game against Arkansas, dude. I think we really need to start considering a loss over A&M to not be that bad right now. Like that defense is crazy good right now, and I can't believe I'm saying that after the
After
Miami
Miami.
game. But their Arkansas's offensive line is pitiful, pitiful,
Yeah, not good.
and so I don't think it's too much on KJ and Rocket Sanders, other than the fact they just have no protection, absolutely none, and so
I mean, it
it's gonna hurt.
kind of goes back to what you say about South Carolina though, and the fact that if you have all these offensive weapons that you're supposed to be able to use and utilize, if they don't have like the protection that you need against these SEC defensive linemen, will they even be able to perform?
Right. No, I mean you can't
Yeah,
in this league. It's a big man's league. The freaking game is won in the trenches. Like Jimbo talks about it so much. Pretty much
every day.
everybody talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
In the SEC, this game in the SEC is won in the trenches. And if they're not having an offensive line, the team's gonna be really bad. Like it was evident last year for A&M. I mean, I think a lot of the offensive struggles was on Jimbo's offense, but just another huge part of it is just a struggling offensive line. It's gonna get you nowhere. But for me, why they're just above those two teams is, I mean, same goes. I think you put them up against either of those teams, neutral site, Arkansas will handle them, just because I feel like they have better options at quarterback and running back
Mm-hmm.
than either of those teams. Yeah, their offensive line might not be as bad, but I don't think Auburn's D line is as dominant as A&M would be.
Yeah,
So I think
well, it's pretty hard to be more dominant than a defensive line made almost exclusively of five
that
stars.
is true. So yeah, I mean, Arkansas have had a really tough go in the start of the SEC. It's
Yeah, that's one way to put
having to
it.
start up against LSU and A&M. That's two uh, really tough teams to face, and so I think they're going to continue to improve, and I think they'll beat Auburn and Mississippi State before this season's over.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. I think all three of those will probably are competing for a mid off in the bottom of the West.
A mid? I don't
Yeah,
even know if they're
a,
considered
a,
mid.
a, it's a it's locking three dudes in a basement and telling them to fight it out while everyone else eats dinner. um, so then our fourth spot, I feel like we may have the same fourth spot. Who's in your fourth spot?
LSU?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, just talk about underperforming like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, two losses already. You might as well ride them out of college football playoff contention.
Yeah.
They're now a New Year's Six at best team. They're not making the playoffs this year already, which is crazy to say that
They're
they're already
calling
out.
for Brian Kelly's head there in Baton Rouge.
Yeah,
It's
and I mean
it's interesting.
we had high expectations for LSU coming into the season. I think we both had them number one in our
Oh,
preseason.
I did too. I mean, the fact that they're not number one to me right now is really surprising.
We dropped them to number four. We say they're
Yeah.
barely better than.
I mean, we've had them. I mean, at least for me,
Yeah.
I've had them number one for a while.
I have them. Yeah, I have them bouncing between 1 and 3.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever gotten this low.
No, this is definitely the lowest they've been for me as well. But that's what happens when you drop that game to Ole Miss, an Ole Miss team that's been evident to not be able to win the big games. They proved that the last week, and so
Yeah, but I mean, the top of the SEC West is an SEC mess. It is like
it's the wild, wild west.
it is like it's again, it's reminiscent of like the 2010s Big 12 where everyone just cannibalizes each other and everyone's just beating each other, and it's like that at the end, that after it's all smoke clears, everyone has 3 losses against each other. It's crazy. Now, mind you, LSU has played both. LSU has played Ole Miss. Ole Miss has played Alabama and LSU, so they've kind of gotten those two. Only left play A&M. A&M's playing Alabama, so like there's a few discrepancies in who's played who so far on top of the West. But man, it's a total crapshoot. And yeah, LSU's defense has looked paper thin. A defensive unit we thought would be really good, and like if LSU's offense struggled, their defense is gonna hold them up, and they haven't. It's been real. I mean, 34 to Arkansas.
Jackson Dart carved them up
Carved
this
them, yeah,
weekend.
like a Thanksgiving turkey, dude. Just sliced them up. So yeah, I mean, you're not gonna win without a good defense in the SEC, and so I mean, it's just yeah for LSU, man. Now you're just kind of fighting to make a big bowl game and not be cursed to the Gator Bowl at this point. Um, yeah, I mean, sucks to say, but
Their
yeah.
defense has definitely been a surprise for me.
Yeah, that was probably one of my biggest surprises in the SEC so far this year was how bad LSU's defense has been.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. I think they have a lot of people out of position.
Yeah.
And so
I
yeah,
don't know.
that's got to get fixed, or Yeah, like you mentioned,
Yep. They can't
Gator
keep.
Bowl or worse.
Yeah, they can't keep getting smacked by our number 3 team in the ranking.
That is true.
Ole Miss, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So we're cleaning up on the top. We're
Yes.
cleaning up at the top.
Yeah. Man, this Ole Miss team is weird. They still have like more chances, or I say more, as equal as a chance of anybody at the top of the SEC to win the West. Um, that game against Bama just was bad, but then they followed it up with a great offensive performance the next week. It's interesting what they can do for the rest of the year. It's sad, or unfortunately for them, they still have to play Georgia.
Oh,
So I mean that's going to hurt their chances. Already having one loss, and then they still have to play A&M.
mm-hmm.
Um, uh, there's just nothing that they've done so far that can put me over the other two teams.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, obviously, the loss to Bama is going to keep Bama ahead of them for me. I'm
Yeah.
always big on the head to head. Like
Yeah.
that's why I always kept Florida ahead of Tennessee.
It's a college basketball guy. I can appreciate that.
Okay, so no, basketball's different. I feel like basketball, you can win without being the better team most days, and
I'd say that.
football, it's I feel like the better team's mainly the one that comes out on top
Breaking news: Cade Harris. Better teams win.
in football.
Is that your hot football take?
No, I'm just saying, like in basketball, it's more likely that the worst team would win rather than
I'm
football.
gonna get that. I'm gonna get that knitted on a shirt for you.
The best teams win.
Cade Harris quotation marks in football. The best teams win. That's a real hot take you're throwing around there. But back to back to the back to the power rankings. And so then our number 2 was your number 2?
Alabama.
Oh. Oh man, we almost had the cream sweep.
This is our worst West, bro. Like compared against each other.
Yeah, this
like,
is bad. No,
like we're all over the place right now.
I still have Texas A&M in my 2 spot simply because I look at each team's non-conference loss. I think Alabama's, as begrudgingly as I say this, I think the loss to Texas is better than the loss to Miami. Not saying that either are a bad loss, but I think Texas is number 3 in the country right now. So I think the Texas loss is a better loss, and I think they have done more against better competition in the West, especially against Ole Miss. Beat Ole Miss by 2 touchdowns, throttle Mississippi State, and then you look at A&M, who just beat 2 of our worst SEC ranked, or like SEC power ranked teams. So that's why I have to keep Bama in that 1 spot. They're a higher ranked team in general. I think they have better SEC wins. They have a better non-conference loss. So for that, I just can't put A&M ahead of them.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't disagree with any of your points. I think the their body of work's a lot better than A&M's. There's no doubt about that. Just looking at the teams on the field, though, I just feel like A&M's a little bit better. Whose offense would you say is better, A&M's or Alabama's?
A&M's right now.
Whose defense would you say is better?
Probably A&M's as well.
It's just how I feel about it. I think the comparisons and defenses there is probably a little bit closer than the offenses.
Mm-hmm.
I think A&M by a pretty large gap has a better offense than Alabama because can you name more than 2 receivers on that Alabama team? And when was the last time that's been hard to do?
Yeah.
Can you name? I guess not. Can you name their backup running back?
For wide receivers, I got Jermaine Burton.
Yeah, he's coming. Is he gonna be playing? I think he's a little bit beat up, but either way,
I don't know. We'll find. We'll talk about that in our preview.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just think that the teams on the field, A&M's looked better just so far in these.
No, that's a very good point as well.
In these last 3 weeks,
I think the way you broke it down, the offense and defense, I do think A&M looks like a better team. So we're looking at 2 different metrics, I think,
mm-hmm.
and I think we both have valid metrics.
Agreed.
But hey, we're gonna get to figure this out this weekend.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
It's a great weekend. The SEC, our 1 and 2s for both sides of the conference are playing each other. It's a great weekend, a lot of great matchups, and it'll definitely shake up come next week. But for this week, that's all we have for our SEC Power Rankings. My name is Hunter Mitchell,
I'm Cade Harris.
and we will catch y'all next time.